Coming into this offseason, a lot of people, including myself, really thought Alante Brown would be right there with Marcus Washington as one of the top wide receivers for the Nebraska Cornhuskers as they entered the 2023 season. But instead, Brown is entering the transfer portal. But this may actually be a good thing and a good sign for the future for Nebraska football. Before we get into that, just a reminder, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Big Ten content all offseason long. Always crush that like button to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses. This guy's stats, Alante Brown's stats in 2022, they certainly didn't jump off the page. 16 catches, 191 yards, and a touchdown. But Alante Brown started 10 games last season. This was a guy that was in the lineup. This was a guy that started a lot of games. This was a guy that saw a lot of time in this Nebraska offense. And I think the coaching staff, I should say the previous coaching staff, really thought highly of Alante Brown. And when he got on the field and when he got his hands on the football like he did 16 times last season, he did make some good plays for this Nebraska offense. He was second on the team in returning receiving production behind Marcus Washington as we approach the 2023 season, right? You see Trey Palmer go, you see Travis Vokalek go, you see Oliver Martin go. Alante Brown was the next in line to really step up and rise up the depth chart and possibly be a big part of this offense in year number one of the Matt Rule era. But why didn't that happen? And why is Alante Brown in the transfer portal? I think a big reason for that, for all of these things that have happened, is two guys that didn't play really last season, and now they're back. I think that's where I want to start with this. Okay, you look at Xavier Betts, kind of left the team. Things happened, I think, in the spring of last season. And then Isaiah Garcia Castaneda had a good game against Northwestern, but then left the team early in that season last year. Those are two guys that I believe had a lot of talent. And those are two guys, when they weren't on the football team, allowed Alante Brown to step in to that role that he was able to get into and start that many games. Because I firmly believe Xavier Betts, more talent than Alante Brown. Isaiah Garcia Castaneda provides things that maybe Alante Brown doesn't. I believe those two guys being back are a big reason why Alante Brown is in the transfer portal. But there's many other reasons why these things have happened. You look at the depth of this wide receiver room at Nebraska, and it looks pretty good. And that's why this is a good sign, where you can take a guy in Alante Brown, the second leading receiver in terms of returning production this season, and he's fifth and he's sixth or whatever on the depth chart. Like, you look at what Nebraska has. You've got Marcus Washington, you've got IGC, you've got Xavier Betts. You bring in transfers Josh Fleeks and Billy Kemp that are slated to make an impact in this Nebraska passing game. And that's just the receivers. Like, you look at Alante Brown in that mix, and he might be fifth and he might be sixth. And that's probably why he's transferring to get an opportunity elsewhere. I'll talk about his potential opportunities and why that kind of flows into this as well in just a minute. That's just the receivers that I mentioned, right? The good thing about Nebraska is, the good thing about this is their plethora of good players on the team. They have weapons at every position. I haven't even touched the tight ends. I haven't even touched the running games. The tight ends, if all goes well, and if Nebraska, they don't have to get all of the potential out of these guys. If they can get most of the potential out of Eric Gilbert and Thomas Fidone, this could be one of the best tight end combinations in the Big Ten Conference. And then you look at the running game. Anthony Grant and A.J. Allen, we saw those guys last year. We know what they can be, and then we know what Ramir Johnson can be. And you know Ramir Johnson is probably going to be involved in the short passing game as well. My point is, there is a lot of depth at the skill position for Nebraska. Now, I'm not out here saying they're great. I'm not out here saying they're going to compete with the Ohio States and the Michigans and the Penn States of the world. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they are deep and the talent is good. And Alante Brown just didn't fit in to this scheme, didn't fit in with all of the talent around. And that is a good thing, Husker Nation. You have talent. You have brought in talent to make your offense more diverse, to make your offense that much more dangerous, where you take a guy second on the team in returning receiving production, and now he's gone and hitting the portal because maybe he views everything around him and saying, I'm not going to really get an opportunity here. I think another thing we have to look at in terms of Alante Brown's talent is, where is he getting transfer offers from right off the gate? Liberty, Tulsa, Miami of Ohio. You don't have Power 5 teams right now, might come later, but you don't have Power 5 teams right now going after Alante Brown right away when he hits the portal. You see that with some guys, you haven't seen it with Alante Brown, which tells me maybe he wasn't a Power 5 or a Big Ten wide receiver that can be a number 1 guy, that can be a number 2 guy. Look, he could go to Liberty, a team that liked to throw it around when Hugh Freeze was there. He could go to Liberty and he could put up a 1,000-yard season and he could work himself into the NFL. Like, there's no doubt about that. But in terms of this scheme, in terms of being a productive Big Ten wide receiver and matching up with Big Ten defensive backs, I think what they have coming back is a really good wide receiving core. And yeah, I look at what they have there, and maybe Alante Brown is 5th on the depth chart. He's 6th on the depth chart. What they've brought in with transfers, what they've brought back with IGC and Xavier Betts. This is a Nebraska offense that has the pieces at the skill positions. They just need the coaching staff. They need the system. They need the scheme to put it all together. So Husker fans, you might be a little bummed out that a guy like Alante Brown is gone, but you should be happy of what you have around. And another thing, last thing I want to mention, you're going to see this at Nebraska. They are way over the scholarship limit. They need to get down to 85 scholarships yesterday. Like, they are way over. You're going to see players transfer out. And this is one of the casualties that you're going to see, Alante Brown. This is one of the casualties. These are the types of things you're going to see with the transfer portal, right? When you get a new coaching staff, they bring in guys to fit their system. You're going to see guys that have been inside a program for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, like an Alante Brown, enter the transfer portal and go elsewhere with the 85 scholarship limit. I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think this is actually a good thing and a good sign for Nebraska football like I do? Or do you think they should have found a way to keep Alante Brown in Lincoln, Nebraska? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.